in April, like there was nobody on the street. I was driving and I could only see like 2 other cars driving. And I think for me, it was like scary and weird at the same time. And I would ask myself, like, what the hell? Like, it took me time to really absorb what this pandemic, what was going on.
I'm Dani Valent, and this is Dirty Linen, the podcast that takes the issues the hospitality industry finds hard to air in public and shakes them all about. For the last couple of weeks on Dirty Linen, we've been travelling around the world talking to people who are involved in the food world on every corner of the globe. I was initially going to travel the world for a week, then it turned into a fortnight, and because there are just always more things to discover and more places to go with our ears, I'm going to do it for another week. So we are going today to Mumbai and we're chatting to Prateek Sadhu. Prateek, I've been lucky enough to eat at Prateek's restaurant, Masque, in Mumbai. It's a tasting menu restaurant. It's super innovative and it showcases, it's very contemporary. Prateek can say it better than me, but it showcases ingredients from the north of India. And when I was there, it was dishes using ingredients foraged in Ladakh in the far, far north of India. So Prateek, welcome to Dirty Linen and thank you so much for having a chat to us today.
Thank you so much, Dani. It's a pleasure. And especially, with the times that we are in, it's just lovely to talk to people around the world, your friends, and, that, everybody's looking for that sense of comfort. So it's such a pleasure to be talking to you.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think food people, we can always find a point of connection. There's always stuff to get excited about together. And I certainly got really excited in your restaurant and in your kitchen. But yeah, at the moment, we really need as much solidarity as we can find. So tell me about the situation in Mumbai at the moment.
Technically right now we're in a lockdown situation because cases are increasing, by the day. And we've shut the restaurant in March 17th. We closed the restaurant down and we're not been able to open the restaurant. So it's around 4.5 months that we are in lockdown and really trying to survive. And it's been hard. It's been difficult. I think it's been really tiring mentally and physically because, you're constantly thinking of how to survive. How can I save my restaurant? I think that's the biggest question that we're asking right now. And it is also not about just saving the restaurant. There's so many people involved. It is your team members. There are vendors who are dependent on you. There are farmers who are dependent on you. And there's so many things. And I think, when you think about everything, you think about the entire ecosystem that you built around the restaurant, shutting down, that's not an option. So since few months, we've started delivery system because, I woke up one day and I was like, if I have to save the restaurant, I got to do something. I got to just unlearn everything, whatever I've been doing and start fresh. So we started delivery system and takeaways. And since Masque, the kind of food that we do at Masque cannot travel well, we thought, I think the first question that I asked myself was, what comforts me? So I think my initial reaction was towards comfort food. So we started doing ramen. We started doing Kashmiri food. Kashmiri food is, I'm from Kashmir. It is a northern part of, it's a region in the northernmost part of India. And I started doing the lamb curries. I started doing some special rice and meat things. So I think that's what we've been doing and surviving. It was, in order to save the restaurants, you got to do what you got to do.
It's so hard to imagine Mumbai in lockdown. It is such a city of street life, of going places. It's such a diverse city. What is it like there at the moment?
I'll tell you, we started deliveries in around April, and I think April was our time where everything was shut, and it was so weird to get out of your house and drive because the Bombay that I know, the Mumbai that I know is bustling with people. It's bustling with energy. There are people around. I'm sure people are honking. There are things going on. It's a busy city. Imagine New York multiplied by 10. That's how I would explain Mumbai. So I mean, in April, like, there was nobody on the street. I was driving and I could only see like two other cars driving. And I think for me it was like scary and weird at the same time. And I would ask myself, what the hell? Like, what the hell? Like, it took me time to really absorb what like, this pandemic, what was going on. So, I mean, now small businesses just started opening up, and you can see, like, Mumbai just getting back on its feet in a way, but not really, because since restaurants are shut, bars are shut. So, we need restaurants about to open in Mumbai, especially.
Well, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't be cooking at home, really. Like, a lot of people are, there's life on the street, there's food on the street. It's like everything happens outside of the home. So I just can't really, I just find it really so difficult to imagine. But I guess it's impossible for all commerce to stop in India. But then at the same time, the cases, I think India's just around 3 million coronavirus cases. So it's like, I think it's like US, Brazil, India. Like, it's really pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, what does it feel like to be there when it just seems like it's two impossible situations?
See, Mumbai is like, I would say, like, Mumbai is the epicenter of like, this food and beverage. Like, it runs the economy of the country, honestly. Stock exchanges here. And Mumbai being on standstill has really hampered, like, every business, directly or indirectly. And especially now, I would, for the last 2-3 months, I've seen, like, so many small businesses also coming up in Mumbai, be it like a food business or e-commerce business. But it's still weird that the entire ecosystem of Mumbai has come to a standstill. Just talking about the restaurants, I feel right now every restaurant that possibly is in Mumbai is doing food deliveries. But at the same time, there's so many restaurants shutting down right now also.
Really?
So I think that's quite scary, because Mumbai's, I mean, exactly. I would always compare Mumbai to New York, because in New York, like, every corner you'll have a restaurant, and the diversity. You'll have a Korean restaurant, and then you have this amazing Thai restaurant, and then amazing British restaurant. So there's so much diversity in New York, and exactly it's the same here. There's so many amazing restaurants doing some really cool regional food, and some, like, food from other parts of the world. And it's sad to see them shutting shops. So, there's a sense of, like, in the chefs and restaurateurs, like, there's a certain sense of, like, fear, like, what will happen, because, like, the clarity is not there in a lot of things. And I think it has to do with the government as well.
Yeah, well, I think also similar to New York, a lot of the restaurants in Mumbai have a lot of tourists, a lot of international visitors coming to them, and I'm sure Masque is one of those places. Has that been a big part of your business that's not there at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, if I travel back to January this year, January, we got to know that we would be in 50 best list, and we have to travel to Japan this year, and just things started, like, changing for us, and we would, like, anyways, our foreign business, like, there were so many travelers coming into Mumbai and eating with us that would make like 60 to 65% of our business.
Wow!
Like, every single day. And after the news broke out, we were 50 best. Our reservations started, like, getting filled up, like, at least like 2 months in advance. And we had these plans of doing so many amazing things. I had these travel plans. Actually, I think right now is supposed to travel to New Zealand for a festival, just this time of the year. And things were just looking great. Like, this was January, February, March, and suddenly, like, from starting your year with, like, such big plans, and in, like, months of time, you're locking the doors of the restaurant. It was shocking for us. Like, it really took us time to really understand the gravity of the situation, because initially it was like, if you don't know how to swim, and somebody throws you into the sea, you're just trying to figure out how to swim and trying to stay afloat and try to survive. And I think that was our condition now, like from April to this month. So I mean, I don't know if we open, and when we open, since there's no travel, there's no people coming into Mumbai for a lot of reasons, be it leisure or just traveling professionally. We really have to think about a strategy as to how we will just survive, or how we are going to change the setup of Masque without disturbing its ethos, because I don't want to disturb the ethos that we're based on. And I think, keeping same in mind, I just have to change a little bit of structure, so that we get more people in.
What do you mean by that? Like, because I mean, if I think back to my beautiful evening at Masque, it's quite spacious. Like, I think in terms of the distancing rules that you might have, it might be okay. But it is a restaurant that relies on you and your team traveling to different parts of the country to source ingredients. So maybe that could be a challenge. Is what kinds of things are sort of going through your mind?
I think there are a lot of things that I've been thinking, and with pandemic in, I would have never thought, doing burgers, because we started thinking for our menu for the delivery system. I thought, why don't we do really good, amazing burgers and tacos?
Wow.
Yeah, we worked on our, the burger patty. Like, it took really like at least a month to really figure out, a lot of things like buns and this and that. And now our burgers are quite popular, and like we're selling a lot of burgers and tacos. And I was just talking to my friend the other day, and he was like, "Dude, like, why didn't you open a burger shop?" And I was like, "No, maybe not, because maybe in a month's time we'll open the restaurant and we'll get busy." So it just struck me that, while I was thinking about changing this, when I say the structure, I was like, okay, let's do a smaller tasting menu format so that we can turn the tables in, and the way we serve also, maybe we'll get 3-4 cold courses together, and then couple of courses together, like sharing plates. Do course wise menus, but we'll just divide those courses into probably 3 servings. So four first, and then like maybe 2 desserts at the end, so that the interaction is there, but like you're not going constantly with every course on the table. And then I have this bar table. I call it it's like a monolith table, like a sort of a community table. And I was thinking, why don't I just do burgers to start with? So if you have to reserve a table, if you just want to swing by, have a beer, and you can also grab a burger, but without disturbing the other dining room. So I have 2 like sort of parallel things going on without disturbing anything. People who want to dine in for like multi-course menu, they're also there doing tasting menus, and also side by side I'm also doing that, because I don't expect, I would expect 65% of my business to be less initially to start with. So how do I manage to just make sure, like, I get the revenue in, so that I can just be able to survive? For me, the idea is to survive. It's not about making money this year. That's thrown out of the window completely. How can I survive is the biggest question. I think if you're surviving, you're doing great.
Definitely. So tell me a bit more about the burger. What's it made from?
So right now we did like an Indian style fried chicken with spice. So we brine our chicken in spices, and a lot of buttermilk, because buttermilk is a very popular drink. Spicy buttermilk is a very popular drink in India, with a lot of spices, with chilies, fresh coriander seeds, black salt. So we thought, let's brine the chicken. It's like a buttermilk chicken, but like an Indian style buttermilk chicken. And then, so we do wet brine first, and then we do dry rub, like all the spices on top, and then we then fry it. So like nice and crispy and juicy and like spicy. We love spice. So
that sounds so good. I'm just salivating over here, but yeah, sounds great.
And then we thought, in Mumbai, there's a very famous bread called pao, PAO. And we thought, let's do a cross between an Hokkaido milk bun and pao. So we managed to get a cross of pao and milk bun, like, which is super soft and fluffy, and it was just like this amazing, like a soft bun with like a a spicy mayo and like this like crispy fried chicken and moist inside, and like with some pickles. Man, it was really good.
Oh, it sounds so good. Pav bhaji is one of the dishes of Melbourne's second lockdown. I can think of like 3 or 4 restaurants off the top of my head that are doing pav bhaji, yeah, which is like a typical Mumbai street food. It just really takes me back, and it's so comforting because it's bread with that spiced potato filling, so it's carb on carb, and I think it's a dish that we all need right now. But now I think we need some with some spiced buttermilk fried chicken. Oh my goodness, it sounds so good.
So yeah, so things that we've done in lockdown, like sometimes, when I sit back and think, it's like I would have never imagined to do all these things if pandemic wouldn't have hit us. So yeah, so working on our ramen recipe, but like it's a spicy miso ramen, works like everybody loves it. Yeah, so like a lot of things that we have done, yeah, it's quite it's fun.
Yeah. Well, I know that you lead a very, I guess, experimental team, like you're always trying new things. I remember going into the kitchen at Masque just before we had dessert, and you showed me all these different jars of things you were preserving. There was one fermented little jar or something, and the label on it said, I think I said it said liquid fucking gold. So
Oh yeah.
it's like, what was that actually?
So this the last year we thought mangoes are it's the king of fruits in India, and Indians are obsessed with mangoes because honestly, like I think we have one of the best mangoes that we produce in the world. Like they are they just taste like honey, and we were just like in this like R&D discussion, and we're like what, like we're not used like mango in any other like form or texture, and how can we extract a different flavor which is like as tasty as the natural one. And then we thought, okay, let's do the blackening process. It'll take 2 months. So we blackened the mangoes, and we got this like a juice after 2 months. Like you could see the bag filled with mangoes, which are all like blackened now. So we took the pulp out, we preserved the pulp, and because of the process, it releases so much liquid. So we collected all the liquid from the black mangoes, and we tasted the liquid. It was like a sugar syrup, but there was obviously no sugar. It was all the natural sugars from mango, which were like just like caramelized. So we reduced that juice, and it became like a honey, like a black mango honey. And we were like thinking of like what should I name? Is it honey? No, it's not technically honey, but the consistency is just like honey, but the taste is like mango. And we were so confused. And one of us said, like it's fucking gold, man. It's like a black gold. It's like, there we go. That's the name. Like I think we should just name it liquid fucking black gold.
You don't need to discover a star out there in the universe because you've discovered your gold. You've been able to name it, and yeah, it's the pinnacle of achievement. I think it's really beautiful.
So I miss those. I miss doing such fun stuff, and sometimes you think I don't know where we headed, but I think it's one thing which I've learned is like I think it's really important to be positive in anything. Because it's a trickle down effect positivity. Today, when I enter the restaurant, when you enter with like this positive vibe and a happy vibe in the kitchen, it's a trickle down effect to the person I'm working along with. So I think it's very important, with the entire team to be so positive and create a really positive atmosphere. So that's the least we could do: spread happiness.
It's a big burden though, as a leader and as an employer, Prateek, like to maintain that positivity when in such a state of upheaval.
But that's what I feel. I think it is sometimes you're in crossroads because back of my mind I'm thinking about, oh my god, like I have to pay a vendor and we need to get some money in the bank, and in front of me, like there's my team member like working really really hard, pushing himself. And it's for me also, it's so important that I stay positive, because if I am positive, I can see like 5 other people who are working with me. They're like, if I'm taking 1 step, they're ready to take 10 steps. So like it's so encouraging just to see like people really pushing at this point of time and really working hard, so that the hard work of last 3 or 4 years is all saved. But as a leader, it's very important to really be practical in our approach right now. And it's not about us; it's about the community that you have in and around. I think that's very important. And and there's so much poverty in India. We were so lucky to raise a lot of funds for people who were jobless, who were homeless, and I think whatever we could do, we did, and we raised a lot of money just to feed those homeless people. So I think as a chef, it is not about just a restaurant, which is important because that's your ecosystem. But at the end of the day, you need to be a responsible citizen, responsible human being, and I think that's where my philosophy also comes in, because the first thing that we did was when we started deliveries. I was like, we need to feed people. We need to feed hungry. We need to feed people who can't fend for themselves right now because situation is not normal. So while we were doing deliveries, we partnered with an NGO which helped. We worked together to help a lot of needy people, a lot of homeless people, just food, just like serving them food. So it's very important, yeah, just to look around yourself in whatever part of the world you are. So I mean, India is a very different case. So
Yeah, well, Prateek, you've got a very interesting backstory, which I guess you've endured hardship in your own life. You had to leave Kashmir as a child. Do you want to tell us about 1990 and what happened then?
yeah, it was. I think it is one of the experiences. I think which when my I think I have personally, no, obviously now I've grown up and I was a kid back then, but when I look back, I think it has taught me so many things. Because 1990, life was set for my parents, and we had a great life, house, and suddenly from that life, one day you're waking up in your house, and the very next day you're waking up in your refugee camp. So I think at that point of time, I think I would say my parents were really. I don't know how they felt, honestly. I'm sure it was so much mental and physical pressure on them when we were forced to leave from our own state. It was for a lot of reasons that they had to leave, and primarily it was because of their own safety and the safety of their kids. So at night we had to leave. At midnight, we packed our bags and we had to leave for refugee camps. And I think they started a new life in those refugee camps because life was so much settled back then for them. And leaving everything behind, leaving your home behind, and after spending some time in refugee camps, you get the news that your house has been torched by terrorists. Imagine how you would feel.
Wow.
So I think one thing I keep talking about is that my mother keeps saying, because imagine at that point of time my mom was my age, maybe little, like couple of years elder, and imagine going through that phase in life. And she was like, however big or smaller you become, you should always keep your head down and feet to the ground, because time is never the same. And she keeps telling me this, you can earn a lot of money, you can earn a lot of fame, but it's useless if it's not used for good. So I think when we spoke about sense of community and feeding the people, it is purely coming out from my own personal experience. Because in those refugee camps, the truck would come and they would serve you tomatoes or basic like rice or lentils and salt, and you would see like people flocking around for basic necessities. Sometimes a lot of people who are fortunate to have everything in life forget that there are so many people who are less fortunate. And I think if we, at this point of time, in this times that we are in, if we don't look after each other, if we don't look after people who have lesser than what you have, then I think we've failed as humans. So I think all those experiences has really made me what I am today, professionally and personally both.
what you do with your food, the way you think about your restaurant as a community. It's there's part of it which is looking back to Kashmir and those ingredients and that food culture from the north of India. But you're also such an outward-looking chef and person. You know, you travel internationally a lot. You've studied in New York. You've staged at, I think, at Alinea and Noma. Is that right? And how do you tell me about your journey as a chef? And did you always have that sort of Kashmiri sensibility, or was that something that you sort of circled back to after you had some experience cooking other types of food?
I was cooking in India when I started out, and I had this dream of working for Thomas. I was obsessed with Thomas Keller, when I was 18, 19. And I was like, I used to, for me, like, he was like everything, because the first time I touched French Laundry, I was like, I have to go there. I have to work. I wrote to him a bunch of times, but of course, he never replied. And I was like, I have to get to US. So, I took a home loan, student loan, and my father mortgaged his house, because he was like, if you have got to do this, I will put everything to get the money from bank, and you go chase your dreams. And I think I'm grateful for that.
Wow.
What he did. And he put down his home papers to the bank. He was like, these are my home papers. I can mortgage my entire house, and you can loan him the money, so that he can study. So I went to US and started at French Laundry finally, and per se, and I moved around, and then Noma happened in between, and I moved back to New York. At one point of time in my life, I was like, I need to come back to India. Honestly, at that point of time, I had so many experiences in me, whether it was Noma or whether it was Alinea, or whether it was spending like a very, very brief amount of time at laundry. Professionally, I was a very different person, but I would say I was also confused. When I came back to India, I started traveling. I went to Kashmir, spent time with my parents, and I started traveling India. I just wanted to understand, because for me, one of the biggest influence also, I would say, was spending some time at Noma. It was not about what they do and how they run the restaurant. It was about the thought process, which acted as a seed in my head. And I was like, a restaurant like that in Scandinavia, which is for 6 months of the time of the year, it's dark. There's nothing. It's so cold, it's so dark. And still they manage to create a restaurant which celebrate their own country, their own produce, their own flora and fauna, the wilderness, the ocean. They're able to really celebrate each and every part of that country. And I was like, I'm sitting on a gold mine, and it's so unfortunate that we don't talk about it. I think that was the seed that it was planted in my head then. And when I moved back to India, I started traveling India to understand, and I think it opened my head. Traveling within India opened my head, and when I started discovering like so many these amazing berries and plants and like food from Himalayan region, and India is a very diverse country, and like how diverse it can be. Every like 200 kilometers, everything changes: language, food, how people eat, techniques. So I think that's I was so inspired, and it just opened my head. I was like, we need to talk about it. We need to tell people what real India is all about. India is not about naans and biryanis and butter chicken. It is 29 countries put together, just like Europe. We have 29 states, and every state has its own cuisine. Every state has its own culture. Every state has its own story. So, so that's why I keep advocating India as this like 29 country cuisine. It is not about 3 or 4 things which obviously are more popular, but it is much more about regions. It is much more about those things. So I think everything, like, really, when I opened Masque, and this is what I wanted to tell the world, a story about this, like a new India, a story about India which was always there but nobody talked about it.
So inspiring. So tell us about Kashmiri cuisine. Like, what's some of the heart and soul of it?
So Kashmir, like, it's very, as every state is very unique in India. Kashmir is one of the very unique in terms of diversity in flora and fauna. Because it's one of the states where there are perfect 4 seasons. So you'll have a really harsh winter. Like you'll have a 6 feet snow sometimes. You'll have an amazing fall. Like you'll see like different colors, and you have a beautiful summer. So with these proper 4 seasons, there's so much flora and fauna which grows. Like I would compare like a lot of vegetables which are growing in Kashmir to any produce in France easily, because we would eat dandelion as day to day vegetable. We would eat purslane as day to day vegetables. We would eat a lot of meat. We would eat a lot of cheese, which is, you know, we introduced this Indian cheese in our menu, which is made there. We would eat a lot of berries. When I really started studying Kashmir as a cuisine, it was just so much driven by nature. It was so much driven by seasons, and it was so much driven by simplicity of food. We when people talk about India, in people talk about spices. People say, "Oh, Indian food is spicy," I know this and that. But if you understand Kashmir, it is we use spices, but in a very, like, the food is so subtle. Food is not even spicy there. Like we would use a lot of fennel powder. We use just a bit of turmeric. We use spices as just like to flavor, like not to give like heat to any dish. So I think for me it was really inspiring to see and find all these ingredients. I would travel and get berries. I would get sea buckthorn. I would get cloudberries. Like imagine, like, Indian cuisine. Like when you talk about Indian cuisine, you're talking about sea buckthorn and cloudberries and dandelion. Nobody would believe me. They're like, what? Like this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, like what are you talking about? Like sea buckthorn, cloudberries, dandelion, purslane. But that is what people in Kashmir eat on day-to-day basis, and when the season is there. So my biggest fight was to convince Indians about their own cuisine. So I think that was the hardest step. And that's what I've been trying to convince also world, that this is, India is much more beyond like chicken tikkas and naans. It's so vast and deep. And sometimes, even like as a chef, even I get like so lost in like all these ingredients. So Kashmir became, because it is my hometown, it became one source of inspiration. And every month I would go talk to local farmers, what they can do for me, start picking berries, and slowly and steadily it became a part of what I do at the restaurant also. So that's what Kashmir is all about in nutshell.
Wow. It's so inspiring. I remember seeing, well, you were doing a Ladakh menu when I was there, so I guess next to Kashmir, right? And just even the seeing photos of you and your team like scrambling up hillsides to get to a bush to collect some berries, and like some of it's pretty intrepid. Like it's not like you're just wandering along, like going to some fancy providor and just like choosing something off a shelf. Like you're really out there amongst it sometimes.
Yeah, it's in the wild. Going to Ladakh is a task, because oxygen levels, it's such a high altitude that you have to take blood thinners. You have to take tablets to just really get acclimatized to the altitude.
Right.
So so it's not a easy terrain to go to, and it takes like 2 days to reach there, and then you have to rest for one day because oxygen levels so down. You need to get used to the weather and altitude, and then you have to further travel into the deep to get those berries. So I miss it, honestly. Every year this time, I would travel, because 6 months is shut. You can't travel to that part of the country because it's heavy snow and the oxygen levels get really, really like the air becomes really thin.
Yeah, wow. My God, I don't know if I told you about the time that I went to Ladakh and I was on the bus coming down, on a minibus coming down, and the bus broke down.
Oh,
And the driver was like, "Yeah, well, it's probably like 3 days we'll get apart. So yeah, just hang out." And so
hang out for
I
3
was
days.
like, "Oh, yeah." So I was like, "Well, this isn't really going to work." So we just started walking down the hill, and that really wasn't going to work because it was like full Himalaya, just like hairpin bends. It was so muddy. And in the end, we hitchhiked on a potato truck, and I sat on the top of this truck. And you know those trucks, they're like swaying, like everything's just balanced on there. So I was just swaying down the mountain, like through the night, sitting, on this truck. It was, when I think about it now, I mean, I just think I miss the whole idea of travel so much. I would even sit on a potato truck all night if I could travel to India again.
This is incredible. I had no idea about the story. I didn't think we spoke about this story.
I don't think I had a chance to talk about. I was too excited by the liquid fucking gold and the yak cheese and the paddy snails and the lamb hearts and all the things that I was eating. But it was definitely an interesting adventure in Ladakh. But like so striking, yeah.
Which year was this?
Oh, it was like a million years ago. It was when I used to be a travel writer for Lonely Planet. So I was in India for a few months across the north. It's like late 90s or something. Oh
my God.
And Ladakh wasn't part of what I was writing about, but I just went up there for a month just to hang out. So yeah, the states I was covering was,
That's incredible. So you stayed for a month.
Yeah. A month and 3 days, because it took me a little bit longer than I thought to get down the mountain. But yeah,
wow. So you understand Ladakh?
I don't think I understand anything about India. You know, I just feel like I just love India so much, and I love the diversity, and I really get what you're saying about it being all these different countries, because it's so different, like different languages. There's so many religions, just so many different histories intertwined. It's such an amazing country, and I just can't imagine. It's so much itself, you know, like I just can't imagine what it's like there at the moment. And is monsoon coming to Mumbai now as well?
Well, we are in the peak of the monsoons, by the way.
Right. So how is that with a monsoon and a pandemic? And I don't know. My mind is just can't quite grasp it.
It's great. Life is great.
Yeah. Amazing.
No, I mean, we're just trying to really, be really balanced in a way that, we know we are in this like heavy monsoon and pandemic, and trying to make sure we're doing deliveries and takeaways and save the restaurant. Honestly, like now we're at the stage where we're like, okay, we know like this is what it is, and we just need to sail through. Not to think about it too much, make sure we're all protected, make sure we're all safe. And look beyond that. I think it's very important to look beyond that because, it's a reality now. So we need to accept that and move past it and make sure we are ready for anything now. So I think, staying positive is the mantra for all of us right now here at Masque also.
Wow. Prateek, it's so amazing to talk to you. I just love where you're coming from. I love your attitude, and I'm sure everyone feeds off your energy in your team and the community that you've built around Masque. Thank you so much for sharing some of yourself with us today. It's I know people in Australia are going to find it so inspiring, and anyone who wasn't already planning a trip to Mumbai when we're allowed to is now planning one. So I can't wait to come back to your restaurant.
Oh, thank you so much.
Whether it's a burger or I'll eat whatever you put in front of me.
No, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure, and honestly, personally, I really can't wait to be back in Australia, because last time when I was there, I had a blast. I loved the country. I loved the people. People are so warm, and honestly, I had one of the best times in Melbourne, Sydney, Byron Bay. Like people I met, the chefs I met, people I met, and I really, really can't wait to be back. So I hope we all sail through this, we all survive, and we all can hug each other back.
Yeah, well, I'm sending you a big hug, and good luck. We'll talk to you.
Thank you.
To you soon.
Thank you so much, Dani.
Thanks, Prateek.
Yeah, take care.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.